Moving to Alaska is no small undertaking, as I'm sure you have figured out even in just your cursory research and trying to get familiar with Alaska in general. You're going to find out there are a lot of things to consider. Well, in today's video, we're going to be talking about the top 10 things you should be considering as you are considering the move to Alaska. Before we get started, though, my name is Jamin. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska. My mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching in real estate. And make sure you give this video a like, subscribe, do all that good stuff because that really does help the algorithm. Now, let's go and jump into today's video talking about those top 10 things you have to consider when you're moving to Alaska. Now, one of the big things you have to consider right off the bat when you're considering moving to Alaska is what part of the state it is that you're going to be living in, because the lifestyles that you're going to be experiencing are just so drastically different depending on where it is that you live in the state. If you're living in Southeast Alaska, that is going to be a pretty remote area where you're only going to be able to get there by ferry, or you'll be able to get there by plane, and that is pretty much it. It's a very isolated kind of area if you're looking for something with still the views and the outdoor activities and everything. But with more career opportunities, you're going to be looking for South Central Alaska. If you're looking for a little bit more extreme Alaska, you're going to be looking at something like Fairbanks, Nome, something like that. So where it is that you decide to live is going to really determine what kind of lifestyle you're going to be living. The second thing you really need to consider is what you are going to be doing as far as living once you do get up here. If you're doing anything in the medical field, you're not going to have any issue finding work. If you're doing something in construction or mechanics, something like that, something that's more of a hard skill where you're working with your hands, then there's a good chance you're not really going to have to look that hard for work either. If you're looking for something that's more middle management, corporate America, you might struggle to find work up here, and you're probably going to have to get a little bit creative. So defining what it is that you're going to do before you get up here is going to be a big decision that you need to make. Now, the third thing to consider is what exactly is making you want to live in Alaska. Why are you wanting to live in Alaska? If you're here just because, oh, I hate people and I just want to get away from as many people as possible, not good enough reason, okay? There's a whole lot of places you can go and be distant from people and not have the downsides of living in Alaska, like the remoteness and not being able to get a lot of the conveniences you might find in the lower 48 and the darkness and the cold and everything else. So if just trying to get away from people is what you're wanting to do, I'd recommend checking somewhere else out because there's a lot more downside here than what you might find in other places. A lot more upside to it. It's a lot more beautiful ability to enjoy outdoor activities, and everything the wild has to offer is absolutely off the charts. But you need to define for yourself what it is that you're wanting to do here and make sure you can't find that with less downside somewhere else. All right, now the fourth thing that you need to do, and this is really going to require you to really do some soul searching and to kind of define why it is that you're wanting to move to Alaska, and that is define what lifestyle sacrifices you are willing to make. If you're just fine with not being super close to the metropolitan area where you're going to have concerts and musicals and a bunch of other stuff like that that's readily available, then that's a lifestyle sacrifice you're going to be perfectly willing to make. If you're someone who just has to have like the super convenience and being able to order something from Amazon and the very next day it's on your doorstep, then Alaska may or may not be a good fit for you. So you just have to decide what lifestyle sacrifices you are willing to make in order to achieve the lifestyle it is that you've set out for yourself. Now, the fifth thing I want you to really consider is how are you going to handle the cold? Alaska is probably not the coldest state in the entire union. There's a lot of states in the Midwest, like Wisconsin, Michigan, Missouri, that I think actually would give Alaska a run for its money as far as the coldness, depending on where it's at, where I'm at in South Central Alaska. Now, once you go more to the interior of Alaska, like Fairbanks and Nome and some other places like that, you're going to find, it is absolutely earns every headline there is out there about Alaska and the cold. But you have to decide for yourself, first off, where you're going, because that's going to determine how much cold you're going to have to deal with. And secondly, if you're going to be able to handle the cold when you do get up here. And keep in mind, if you move here during the summertime, you do have the ability to slowly acclimate to the cold because the seasons do kind of have that slow adjustment, and that'll give you the ability to kind of adjust to adjust to the climate instead of just showing up here in January and hoping that that pans out. All right, we're going to go and finish the video in just a minute. But before we do that, though, I just wanted to make sure you folks were aware that I do host a podcast called the Alaskan Journey Podcast, where I talk with people who've recently moved to Alaska about their experiences of moving here and what they think of the state so far. If you're considering making the move yourself and making the move up here, this is an absolute goldmine of information for you, so you want to take advantage of it. Link for that is going to be in the description section down below, and let's go and finish up today's video. All right, the sixth thing that you have to consider, and it's kind of in line with number 5, and that is, how are you going to handle the darkness? So the darkness of the Alaskan winters are not nearly as extreme as you would think looking at headlines, because you see all these headlines and all these YouTube videos out there talking about, oh, Alaska, the sun goes down and you don't see any sunlight for like 2 months at a time during the wintertime. And that is just not the case. In the vast majority of the state where people actually live, once you go way north, like in Barrow or Nome or places like that, then yes, that is definitely going to be the case. But for the most part, in South Central Alaska, or even further south, you're going to be getting more sunlight than you would think by looking at the headlines, but it's still going to be a lot of darkness that you're going to have to deal with. I think around winter solstice, I think we get like maybe 6 or so hours of sunlight, and even then it's kind of hazy. So at its darkest, yes, it is going to be pretty dark and pretty pervasive. And if you're the type of person that just absolutely needs sunlight, then that's going to be something you really have to consider. There are some other things you can do that kind of help along with that to get what they call like happy lights in order to get the rays coming in a little bit to help your skin and help with all the other physiological help that you can get through the sunlight. So that's really good. You can take the vitamin D supplements, and that does help as well. But ultimately, you're probably not going to know how you're going to respond to the darkness until you actually get up here. And you just don't know. I didn't know I was going to have an issue with dealing with kind of the seasonal effectiveness disorder myself, which is essentially just wake up one day in the wintertime and you're sad. And that's that's about all the warning that you get. And it is something that you're going to find in just about all northern climates, as far as I can see. In Alaska, there's a lot of services and everything to support those that are kind of dealing with that. So, best thing I can say is just go into it with your eyes wide open and make sure you stay plugged into community. And if you need to get like the happy sad lights, whatever they're called, or start taking supplements, then that's just something you need to be aware of, and not to be too proud to actually do it if it's something that's going to help you. All right, number 7 is make sure that you are actually going to get out and take full advantage of everything that the state has to offer. If you're going to be the person that just gets to Alaska and then you just hang out in your house, your apartment, the barracks, wherever, and you just refuse to get out and actually enjoy the wilderness through hiking, fishing, hunting, whatever outdoor activities is kind of your go-to choice, then I kind of question why you went through all the work to move to Alaska in the first place, because that is literally the entire benefit right there, is being able to live an absolute outdoor lifestyle at a premium. So that's, if you're not going to actually get out and take advantage of the state, then I kind of question the whole point of being here in the first place. And this is especially poignant for people like me who are inclined to overworking, because during the summertime, everyone wants to move up here and acquire real estate. So I'm very busy during that time period. And also, that's the best time to actually get out and enjoy the state. So it's kind of this weird juggling act I have to do for about 2 or 3 months during the summertime, where you gotta make hay while the sun shines business wise, and also I want to get out and actually enjoy the state. 'Cause if I can't do that, I'm probably not going to live here. So that's kind of the balancing act that I have to do, and you'll probably have to do some version of that yourself. I don't really like that I have to say this, but living off-grid is not the norm in Alaska, despite what you would think with reality TV and all the YouTube channels that are out there. I know they are really popular, and they're popular just because they're so uncommon. Off-grid is it's kind of a niche style of lifestyle up here, and there's going to be different variations of it. A lot of people you see living off-grid are really just living a little bit more remote than the rest of the state, but they're still connected by road, and not going to spill the beans for some people, but doesn't look like they're living as off-grid as what you would think based on what you would see looking at the YouTube channels. But yes, just know that living off grid is not the norm in Alaska. And the reality is that most people that move up here, they look at the towns and they're like, oh, okay, it just looks like, a town in the Midwest, like small town Midwest with a great view. It's like, yeah, that's pretty much it. And few less conveniences, but that's pretty much it. And you can more readily access all the wildlife and the outdoors than you probably could anywhere else as well. All right, number 9, and that is the cost of living in Alaska is higher than what you're going to find in most other parts of the country. And yeah, the cost of living is just going to be a measurement of how much you live or how much you make versus how much you spend. And in Alaska, cost of living is going to be on the whole higher than what it's going to be in most other parts of the country. Now, once you compare it to places where a lot of people do live, like the big cities like New York, LA, Miami, a bunch of places like that, you're actually going to find that Alaska is surprisingly affordable, especially when you take into consideration that Alaska is one of those premier top shelf places that people do want to live if they're looking for that outdoor lifestyle. And the fact that it's so affordable compared to those places is actually a really good sign. But yes, it is going to be higher than what the average is, whatever that actually means. And just keep in mind, you're going to make more in Alaska, but you're probably going to spend more money on things like housing, utilities, and food is really going to be the big one. So I've made entire videos talking about the affordability crisis in Alaska, whether it's a crisis or not, and what to do about it, and just some other things that you can do, though, to kind of give you a wider margin financially and help you to budget a little bit better and save as much money as you possibly can. So we've got some other videos on that, so make sure that you go watch those. Last but not least, if you are single and moving to Alaska, just be aware that the dating scene up here can kind of leave something to be desired. And, I say that as someone who's in a great relationship now, by the way, but I know the dating scene in general up here, I know the women joke all the time that the odds are good because there are so many men as compared to women, but the goods are odd. And for the guys, it's like, well, I'm sorry, but the odds aren't good and the goods are odd as well. So there's something to be said for, if you have the ability to do so, to getting into a relationship before you move up here and bringing that significant other with you, because it can definitely be slim pickings once you actually do get up here, especially if you're a guy. So this has been my list talking about the top 10 things you should be considering if you're looking at moving to Alaska. If you have any other questions or would like to receive a copy of my relocation guide, do make sure you reach out to me on my website down below and register and put relocation guide in the comment section so I know what to send you. Don't just comment down below in the comment section relocation guide, because I have no way of actually getting anything to you at that point. So go to the website, register, write relocation guide in the comment section there, and I'll make sure to get that to you. But this has been your video today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.